didn't even know. I was trying to
Okay, here we go. Great, finish mopping the floor. Guys, come on. No work to do today. So first review day, and we're gonna get ready for a quiz next time. Gray can finish mopping the floor in 20 minutes. It takes Daisy 25 minutes. How long will it take them together? What's this equation gonna look like? 1 over 20.
1 over 25.
1 over 25 equals 1 over x. Because, what is this over here? This is their time together, and that's what I don't know. All right, I need a common denominator. Well, what's the easiest thing to do?
200x.
Make it 20 times 25 times x, right? Isn't that going to be the easiest? Are there smaller numbers? Sure. But it would be quickest and easiest. Let's just multiply this one by 25x. This one by 20x. And this one by 25 and 20. Does that make sense to everybody? Instead of sitting around trying to figure out that 100 would be the least common denominator, we'll just do it this way. All right, so 25x plus 20x equals 25 times 20, which is 500. So 45x equals 500. And x equals 500 over 45, which is 100 over 9. And the unit on that is minutes. That's how long it takes them to do the job together. Okay? All right, number 2. Will can paint the room in 3. Sophia can help, so it takes 2. How long will it take Sophia alone? What's that equation going to look like? 1 over 3 plus 1 over x equals 1 over 2. Common denominator is 6x. Don't forget x has to be part of it. So 2x here, 6 here, and 3x here. So 2x plus 6 equals 3x. And it looks like it takes her 6 hours. We good? Next, what are we going to do? Number 3, we're going to solve. How are we going to solve this? Factor. How does it factor? Plus 7 minus 2. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Now, see that? Oh, you don't see it because I didn't write. See that right there? That tells me I need a number line. And I'm going to put dots on my number line. At negative 7 and 2. I'll color them in. Then I'll pick a number. I like 0. 0's in here. Does it matter what number you pick? No, pick whatever you want, as long as it's not these. You can't pick those. So I'm picking 0. 0 gives me 7 times negative 2. Is that number, that answer, bigger than 0? No. So I do not shade here, which means I will shade here and here. Yes. And therefore my answer is negative infinity to negative 7, bracket, close dot, or 2 to infinity, right? I'm still getting people in the homework that's come in. We're not setting these infinity ones up right. on your number line, this is negative infinity and this is positive infinity. When you build an interval, it's in order. So it would have to be negative infinity, negative 7, and it would have to be 2 infinity. They're in order. Okay? All right, number 4. Now this one's already factored for us. That's good news. So I'm going straight to my number line. And what am I putting on there? Negative 1 and 3. Now, I notice that I have a squared. So what does that mean to me in terms of doing the problem? Babe? No.
I got it.
You can't alternate.
Manny?
You gotta check every.
I gotta check every spot. So before we got by with one check and then we just alternated, can't do that here. So you're gonna have to pick a number over here. Let me write down the problem. And I want a positive result. So if I put in negative 2, negative 2 minus 3 is negative, but I'm squaring it, so that would be positive. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative. When I multiply those two together, am I going to get bigger than 0?
No.
Nope, don't shade. All right, I'm going to try 0. 0 minus 3 is negative 3, but squared is positive. And 0 plus 1 is positive? Does that work for me? Shade it. Try 4. 4 minus 3 is 1, squared is positive. 4 plus 1 is positive. Does that work?
Yes.
Yep. Now, you gotta be careful here. Don't we still have 2 sections, even though they're joined, sort of, don't we still have a two-part answer? Yeah, because that's not included. So we have to say negative 1 to 3, or 3 to infinity. You can't do this. That would be wrong, because 3 is skipped over.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, last one. It is already factored. So we can go straight to the number line. And where will the dots be on our number line? Negative 1, positive 2, and negative 5. Right? So I'm going to pick my 0 again. I like 0. Pick whatever you want. You do it. Pick whatever you want. I'm going to pick 0. 0 gives me a positive, a negative, and a positive. Positive times negative divided by positive. Does that turn out to be less than 0? Yeah, that's negative. Positive times a negative is a negative, divided by positive is still a negative. So this is negative.
The dots, since you're
I just did that.
isn't it you should, but you wouldn't.
Let me finish my shading here. I did. I didn't. I did. I did. Okay, so my shading's done. Now, Sammy says, what about these dots? Well, this is the one I have to be careful about. If a dot came from the denominator, it will never be colored in. So my negative 5 will not be colored in. But because of this, the other 2 dots will be colored in. If the dot came from a denominator, then it will never be colored in. So, negative infinity to negative 5, or negative 1 and 2. And I'll use brackets on the negative 1 and 2 because those dots are colored. Now, the actual quiz you take will not have quite that many problems on it, but it will have that kind of problems on it, all right? So probably 3 of those on your actual quiz that you take tomorrow. Okay. All right. Let's get out our practice test and get started. It looks to me, as I'm kind of planning things out, that your test will probably be next Monday.
Monday test? I thought it was illegal.
We'll review on Thursday and Friday, and we'll take our test on Monday. It's at the end of the day. By the time you get there, it'll be like Tuesday already, right? So, practice test might be, I don't remember when I handed them out. All right, here we go. Number 1, oh boy, sketch the following. And then fill in all of the information. Okay, remember, what does your test look like? Exactly like this, right? So 1 page of the test. 1/4 of your test is this one. Okay, here we go. How do we start? Factor. How does the top factor? -3 plus 2, how does that look? Now, you can just sit there and write down what I wrote, or you can figure it out yourself, because that's what you're going to have to do on Monday. Okay, does that look okay? How about the denominator?
Plus 2.
Plus 2 minus 2. Okay, we got a cancellation. So you are going to graph this. And you have to fill in all of that side information there. So start somewhere, doesn't matter, there's no special order. Give me something, Esty, give me something. Give me one of these things, right here. She says the horizontal asymptote is y equals 1. What do we write in that blank? Y equals 1. What do we draw on our picture? Y equals 1. Remember, this is 1/4 of your test. Don't be skimping. Write it down. All right, good. Okay. Jarius, give me something else in that list.
Can we plug 0 for the x's to get the y?
Absolutely, we can do that.
Okay.
So if we put in 0 for the x's, we get 3/2. So my y-intercept is 0, 3/2, or 1.5 if you are a decimal person. Perfect. Evan, give me something else. Give me something else that's in this list. The hole. We know we have a hole because we canceled, right? So the hole will be where x is -2. So we'll plug in -2. And it looks like I'm going to get -5 over -4. 5/4. So -2 5/4. 5/4 is just a little bit bigger than 1, so it's above that asymptote, right above that asymptote there. All right. Charlie, give me something else, something we haven't filled in yet.
The x-intercept, you just set the
So the x-intercept will be what? 3. Very good, Charlie. X-intercept's 3. What's the only thing left? Vertical asymptote. Where is it? Based on that, you need to be able to draw a picture. Remember, you connect the dots on each side of the asymptote. So there's one piece of it. How come I don't just go ahead and connect that one? Because I can't cross my asymptote, right? That's what splits it into 2 separate pieces. What's happening on the other side? Same thing, but down here like this. Is that okay? All right, so one page of our test is graphing a rational function. It looks like the next page is solving inequalities. What do I do here? Move the 6 over, absolutely. What are some of the absolutes when we do inequalities? We gotta have a 0 and we gotta have a number line, right? That's what we gotta have. So I got my 0, now I'm gonna do my number line. I gotta figure out where the dots go. What shall I do here?
Take out X.
What?
Take out an X.
Take out an X. I always factor, you guys. I always factor. Gotta factor. That's where the dots come from. So David says this one has a GCF, so we'll pull out the X. So where do the dots go then?
6 and 0.
6 and 0. Remember, a plain X is a 0. So I've got 0 and 6. Come on, engage your brain. We get a Z, set us equal to 0 and then factor it. Those dots should be closed in. Oh shoot, I can't pick 0 this time, so I have to pick a different number.
1.
1 is in here. 1 is in here. 1 would give me a positive times a negative. Does a positive times a negative give me a positive? No. So I will not shade where the 1 is, which means I will shade the other sides. So negative infinity to 0 or 6 to infinity is my answer. Okay? All right, B. These are the ones that are a little bit, they're a lot. All right, so here we go. Step 1, Kate.
Subtract 6.
Gotta get the 6 on the other side, because, just said it a couple minutes ago, if an inequality is involved, involved. I gotta have a 0, and I gotta have a number line. So I'm gonna get my 0. I like to put that 6 over 1, because that's what it is, 6 over 1. And now I can see I need to get a common denominator. So I am going to multiply this line by x plus 3. Now I write one fraction with my denominator. And then my numerator will be careful, x minus 2 minus 6x minus 18. That's my numerator. Minus 6x minus 18. So cleaning that up, I'm going to get negative 5x minus 20. I know I'm going to have 2 dots on my number line, and you know one of them is going to be at negative 3. I'm not quite sure where the other one is, so I'm going to work it out. Negative 5x minus 20 equals 0. So negative 5x equals 20. It looks like that other dot's going to be at negative 4. So negative 4 and negative 3. Remember, this is a number line, so out here somewhere 0, right? So this is how they go. Now I'm going to put 0 in, and when I put 0 in, 0's out here. When I put it in, I get negative 20 over positive 3. Is negative 20 over positive 3 less than 0?
Yes.
Yeah. So that means I'm going to shade out here where 0 is. And if I shade out there, then I'm going to shade over here too.
Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18.
And my answer is negative infinity to negative 4. Oh, time out. Yep. The numerator dot needs to be colored in. Yep, thank you. That's exactly right.
Wouldn't it not be negative 4? Wouldn't it be positive 4?
I gotta set that equal to 0 and solve it. No.
Oh my god.
If you put negative 4 in here, I mean, if you put positive 4 in here, you get negative 20 minus 20, and that's not 0. It has to equal 0. Just like x plus 3 has to be 0, that's how we get negative 3. So solve it out. It's confusing like that. All right, Mackenzie, are you straightened out over there, or do you?
Yeah, I figured it out. I'd had too many negatives.
Okay. And I forgot to color in my dot. So thank you, whoever suggested that. Great, thank you.
Wait. Oh, never mind.
So the 6, no.
Are you good? All right, next.
No.
The good news is the next problem is already factored. The bad news is it has a square. Right?
Right.
So I'm just gonna start picking numbers. Alright, so you go ahead, you pick them, plug them in. You want it to be less than 0, so that means negative. Go ahead, see what you can come up with. Alright, anybody figure out where we're colored here? Which one colored? Just the middle?
And the left. I got the left too.
0 would definitely make it negative. Did you try over here, Macy?
That one's colored.
That one's colored in.
So I think that also makes it negative, doesn't it?
Yep.
That's not right.
That does not. So remember, and then there's a squared in there, you guys. You've got to pick a number in every section to know where to shade. Now, since this is all colored in, I can write my answer like that. It's one chunk. Because the whole thing's colored in. There's no gaps in it. This is a little bit
That
crazy.
is what I told you.
Yeah. That was -8. Okay? Alright. Next.
Oh, like that.
Are you all right with me bringing my 15 over? Because I know I have to get it equal to 0. Okay? Now, I know I need a number line. I know I need dots on my number line. There'll be 3 of them probably, unless I have a square that pops up. There'll be probably 3 of them. And in order to figure out where they are, I'm going to have to factor. How do I factor something like that?
Synthetic division.
PRRs and synthetic division, right?
Yeah.
Now, this won't always happen, but let's just keep our eyes open here. See how all that's positive? If I put a positive number out here in the box, there is no way it's going to cancel and give me 0. Does that make sense to you? Think about it. The only way you're going to get 0 is if there's a -15 there. You can't get a -15 if that's a positive number. So I'm going to pick a negative, only negatives this time. Okay? And the negatives I'm going to pick are going to be 1, 3, 5, or 15. So what do you want to pick? -5. -5. Here we go. -5. That's really good.
Oh my gosh, it worked.
It worked. -5 worked. Which means one of the numbers on my number line will be -5. This is the dot. If it gave me 0, it's a 0. Danny?
When I was doing it, like while you were in the previous problem, I started, before moving the 15 over, I took out an X.
Okay?
Are you allowed to do that?
No. I mean, there's nothing algebraically wrong with doing that, but you can't go anywhere with it then. So, nope, you don't want to do that. Anytime you have an inequality, you want to get it set equal to 0. Don't mess with it before that. All right, I'm not done here though. One of my dots is going to be at -5. The other dots are going to be where? It looks like -3 and -1. Right, folks? Now here is where we can get into trouble if we're not thinking clearly. This problem, when I go to plug stuff in, I have to have 3 factors because it's an x cubed. So I got the 2 that came from here. What's the other one gonna be? X plus 5. Don't forget him. Don't forget the factor that came from the number that you divided out. All right, 0 is out here. I'm gonna do 0. 0 gives me 5 times 3 times 1. Is 5 times 3 times 1 less than 0? Nope. So I'm not shading that there. I will shade here and here. So my answer, -infinity to -5, or -3 to -1. If there is a factor that is squared, yeah, it's the factors. Put a 2 on there, and yep, you gotta check every single one. SD, you can always check every single one. You can always do that. You have to if there's a square on one of your factors. All right? Okay, we finally finished with the inequalities. Now we have an equation. What's our strategy with an equation? Common denominator, which will be
10x.
10x. Could I use a different common denominator? Yep. 10x would be the smallest one. So times 2x times 10 times x.
It's 2. What did we do?
So 18x
Plus 30.
plus 30
7x.
equals 7x. So 30 equals -11x. And x equals 30 over -11. Remember, if you have an equals problem, your answer is going to be x equals. F is the exact same thing, but bigger. I was stunned, and I don't know if it came out of this class or other classes, I don't know. But some of the quizzes we took yesterday, people did not factor this one. And so their common denominator ended up being like this long because they didn't factor the one that factors. How does that last denominator factor? Take a clue from this. 2x minus 3x plus 1. Now, in the real world, that won't always be the case, but that is a good place to start. Does that FOIL to give me what I have here? Yeah. So my common denominator has just two pieces. It has a 2x minus 3 and an x plus 1.
I mean, I know what it is, I just don't like to.
Now, are all my denominators the same?
No, yeah, I know, you're supposed to.
Yes. So now, 4x plus 4 plus 2x squared minus 3x equals negative 8x. Quadratic equation, yeah, it said equal to 0. So I have 2x squared plus x plus 4 equal negative 8x. I'm gonna bring this over. 2x squared plus 9x plus 4. Double check that and make sure you're okay with that.
So proud of you.
Now figure out what to do with it. What are you gonna do with it?
Factor.
It does factor. It does factor into 2x and x and 4 and 1.
Just pay attention.
Of course you can use the quadratic formula. If your equation is quadratic, you can always use the quadratic formula. My answers turn out to be what? What are my answers? Negative 1/2 and negative 4. I'm gonna double check real quick. Where am I? Those are okay. They don't make 0 in the denominator. They're not extraneous. We got a couple minutes. I want to do the quadratic formula here because some of you still aren't doing it right. And it'll always be usable. You can always do it with the quadratic, but you gotta do it right. So x equals negative b squared minus 4 ac all over 2x. Here's the part that you're messing up. 81 minus 32 is 49. And the square root of 49 is 7. You gotta write down the answers. So negative 9 plus 7 over 4 and negative 9 minus 7 over 4. Well, negative 9 plus 7 is negative 2 over 4 is negative 1/2. Negative 9 minus 7 is negative 16 over 4, which is negative 4. Stopping here is not good enough. You gotta go all the way to the end and get the answers. Okay, now, if this had been a 41, then stopping there is fine. But if it's a factorable problem, it'll always be able to be simplified. All right, finally, back side. So it looks like our test has one whole page of rational inequality, or what rational equation bracket. It has a couple pages of solving inequalities and equations, and then it has a couple of so here we go. Read question 3A. Question 3A. our setup. Amount times percent, amount
Good job.
times percent, amount times percent. Alright, so let's fill in what we know.
Isn't it X equals 0.9?
I always like to put my percentages in first, but be really, really careful, guys. 9%. 0.09, yeah, 0.09.
Hey, I wrote that down.
And 0.03 and 0.05. How much? 9%. Must be mixed with a 3% to get 15 gallons of the 5. I heard somebody say something close. 15 minus X. 15 minus X. Again, open your brain. These two added together have to be 15. So this cannot be 15 plus X, because that would be more than 15. This is the most right here. So to back up, instead of adding, I'm gonna have to subtract, because I need a smaller amount. So it's 15, which is the total, minus whatever I put in the bucket first over here. So 0.09X. I'm trying to do this without a calculator. That might or may not be a good idea. Now be careful. Don't these need to be added together or subtracted? So 0.06X plus 0.45 equals 0.75. So 0.06X equals 0.30. And I got 5 gallons.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, when we take this test, I want you to pay attention to something here. We did that practice quiz first. We have one more problem to do on this test and we'll be done. And we still have 11 minutes left in the period. So there's no reason for you to be rushing on this test, right? There's tons of time. You'll get it done. Take your time. Type it in on your calculator. Get your decimals in the right spot. All right, one more. Will and Zane paint a fence together in 12 hours. What's my framework for this? 1 over alone plus 1 over alone equals 1 over together, right? So here we go. Will and Zane together in 12 hours. Where does the 12 go? Together. 1 over 12. Together. Will can do it alone in 15 hours. 1 over alone. How long does it take Zane?
We do not know.
X.
1 over X.
We do not know.
You can use whatever common denominator you want. An easy, fast way to do it is to say, I need a 15, an X, and a 12. Now that isn't the least common denominator. You could certainly find a smaller one, but instead of messing with it, I need a 15, an X, and a 12. So this one needs a 12 and an X. This one needs a 15 and a 12. And this one needs a 15 and an X. See what I'm doing, guys? See how easy that is? I don't even have to think. So 12X, 180 equals 15X. 180 equals 3x. Whoa, 60 hours?
Whoa.
Takes him 60 hours to get the job done. Yeah.
He's not the brightest.
All right.
Fence for
All right, you got some room down there at the bottom. I'm gonna give you a problem real quick. And I need some volunteers to come up and handle it. I'm gonna give you one of the big ones, okay? One of these like x squared plus 5x minus 6 over x squared minus 1, okay? And then different people are gonna come up and put different things into the problem. So Manny is already charging up here, which is okay. He is going to factor it, right? That's the first step. And then put something in.
Alright.
One of the asymptotes or something. And then another person is going to come up and do the next part, and so on. As soon as we're done with this problem, we're done. So let's make good time here. Khan Academy has 80,000 factory problems. You can use all the worksheets and just practice. It's like, how do you get to be up there on stage singing and dancing? Practice, right? Before he gets too far into it, he's got x plus 6, x minus 1 as his numerator. I hope you do too. That's correct. How do I know it's correct? Not because I have it memorized, but because I failed it. Back. Check. Wait, what is it? 1, 7/2. All right, so Manny put a hole at 1, 7/2. Are we okay?
Good job, man.
All right, now Solomon's gonna do something.
What? No, it says
1, 7/2.
yeah, it's kind of faded.
Is this hole at 1? Yeah.
Bro.
Okay, Solomon just put his vertical asymptote in at x equals -1, is that right?
Where's
Okay, remember, we're done when we get it done, so let's have some more volunteers, let's go, we got some more stuff. All right, everyone's ready. What do you put in there?
What do we put? Oh, I'll do the x-intercept.
All right, she's gonna do the x-intercept. For those of you that still don't know, where does the x-intercept come from? Numerator. Numerator.
We let it have repeats.
All right, good job. Okay, who else? What's left? We need a horizontal asymptote and a y-intercept. That's all that's left. What's she doing? What are you doing, Sammy?
The horizontal.
All right, then you do your y-intercept. So Sammy is putting a horizontal asymptote at where?
1.
Y equals 1. Boxing in x and x, 1. And Jarius is going to put a y-intercept somewhere.
Wait.
Really? 6. Stop. Wait.
No, dude.
Hey, 6.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't.
Put it down. Put it on the.
Put it on the
that.
monitor.
Jaquaid it is.
Where is it at? Oh.
Come on, Jaquaid. Yeah,
And
Jerry.
then one person to come up and sketch the picture. Who will do that? All right. Let's go,
Is
girl.
it in this one? What's that? You. So you lied. So you lied. Fuck that. Guys, I promise I didn't use my
We trust you.
Good job.
Now, that was a nice
Ah.
effort.
Ow!
But we all know we gotta be able to do that alone on test day, right?
I could have did it in the last time.
Oh my god, I did it.
Thank you. Here we go, everybody.
Hey, no
Good
pop,
work.
dude.
Good work.
Whatever it's called, I contributed. If you move the table, it is sitting on the table. If you don't move it, it will fall.
You just look, guys.